Thank you, Chair. Mr. McGee, just to continue the theme of accreditation.
Sure.
Given the concerns that given that you're currently investigating regarding the way that the coronavirus large business interruption loans financing is used, can I put it to you that actually the criteria accrediting lenders wasn't sufficiently rigorous? Because if it had been, then your bank would have done what the Treasury did, HM Treasury did, which is to refuse to provide hundreds of millions of pounds of loan guarantees.
I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with you in that. I think what you're referring to is that the Bank of England didn't provide the CCF facilities. Those were a different type of, there was a different program which was used for different purposes, different eligibility criteria. It was designed to be used for investment grade corporates, not for financial institutions. So I believe that it's fair to say that the Bank of England turned that application down because it didn't meet those criteria. We looked at the criteria of CL bills, which we'd worked in very close collaboration with BEIS and Treasury to create. And that was a delegated scheme. And it's very important to point out that we accredit the lenders. We don't look at the underlying borrowers. That's delegated to those lenders. And in the case of CL bills, there's what we call skin in the game or co-investment alongside. So I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with you. I think the Bank of England's decision was based on a different set of scheme criteria and a different purpose.
Right. So what you did was okay, despite what's happened.
I think we
hindsight, the letter from the chair of the British Business Bank to the chair of this committee pointed to the fact that the board doesn't have, the investment committee oversees this stuff, the board doesn't have oversight of the kind of lending decisions that led to the loan guarantees of up to 400 million.
There's a couple of elements in that. The board does delegate to the investment committee, so the board approves us launching the new programs. And again, as you can imagine, in a bank with the managing the exposures that we do, it's appropriate for the board to delegate various investment decisions down. As I was saying earlier, there we'd accredited more than 100 lenders into the scheme, so the board had delegated to the investment committee.
Just on that, and given the response from the chair, from Lord Smith, do you think that there is a case for the board to have greater oversight so that this sort of thing doesn't happen in future? What banks would do in terms of senior management regimes and so on, is there more, should there be more rigor in terms of what the board does? Because at the moment, what we've got is an unhappy situation of the Green Seal Capital being able to access CLBL's BILS loans in the way that they did.
Again, there's various aspects of, first of all, in terms of the board and the rigor, I would say that our board is extremely rigorous. I'm a member of our board, and to sit as an executive member there, the board will approve the launch of new products, will delegate appropriately. Again, we can look at our governance structures over time, but I think it's very common, even for a regulated financial institution, which we're not, to have the board having oversight of programs and then delegating to senior investment committees. So hopefully that gives some thought.
I appreciate what you're saying about rigor, but in this case, the rigor didn't stop the fact that reportedly some 8 times the £50 million limit was reached. So you're coming here to this committee to say you have a rigorous process, and it seems like you're not acknowledging that there is a major failure here, and that lessons need to be learned.
Oh, sorry, I did say that there will be, lessons to be learned, and the board is looking.
Is one of the lessons that the board needs to have much greater oversight and rigor in the way that it oversees what subcommittees do. For instance, that's not, it's a governance point. That can't be, it's not rocket science to look at a major failure, which this is, to be able to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And absolutely, and we can explore that, and we can look at the governance regimes, and I can say that the board are looking very closely at this. And as I said, what we are looking at here is an ongoing investigation, where, you know, at the outcome of the investigation, one of the outcomes could be that the guarantee could be withdrawn. I can't comment today on how that decision will go, because that could prejudice our piece. So our board are looking very carefully at this. And of course, we will look at this when everything is passed, and see if there's more we can do on the governance front.
Just check. Was anyone? Were any members of staff or board members lobbied by any outside parties on behalf of Greensill Capital?
What I would say, there was one letter from a local MP, John Healy. I think the chair has responded that there was no contact from David Cameron, etc., in terms of lobbying, and we independently assessed the Greensill application against the criteria that we had been set. In terms of that, there were questions, of course, from Bays, who have a steel team who are interested in outcomes in the steel sector, but in terms of, you know, direct political lobbying, I think the chair has written to you on that.
And can you just run through with me, and apologies if there's any repetition, about the bank's relationship with Greensill Capital and GFG, what the bank knew about the relationship between Greensill Capital and GFG Alliance at the time that you accredited Greensill Capital as a lender? Did the bank have any concerns, for instance, about Greensill Capital while it was doing that accrediting?
So again, it's important to stress that we were accrediting and analysing Greensill. As I said, this is a delegated scheme, so then the underlying investment decisions are for Greensill to take in compliance with the scheme rules, which are to provide significant protections to government. So we were aware that GFG was a significant and established client of Greensill. But again, we weren't undertaking analysis of GFG. We were looking at the Greensill accreditation request against the proposals there. So we were aware that it was an established client, but again, the system and controls within the scheme were there that there was a maximum of £50 million to any borrower or borrower group, and we had to be pre-notified of any lending that was going to go above 50 million to any borrower or borrower group.
And the Treasury Committee has been told that BIS was passed information by HM Treasury, which related to Wylands Bank. What, if any, of that information made it to the British Business Bank, and what did you do with that information, if you got any?
There was no information passed to the British Business Bank about Wylands Bank, but as I was saying earlier, we were accrediting Greensill, not GFG, and certainly not Wylands Bank.
And just one more thing, which is related to the Bank of England. They were also receiving information from a foreign regulator about the control issues at Greensill. Charles Roxburgh told the Treasury Committee that the Treasury did not become aware of these aware of these until October 2020. When did the British Business Bank become aware of them?
I don't have any exact date, but I could go and check that. But it was certainly in the very latter part of 2020. That sort of accords with what you're saying there. So I don't know exactly how quickly Treasury did inform us, but we did know about that regulatory investigation in the latter part of 2020 after the accreditation.
Thank you. Just one final question. So Mr. Cameron was, as you know, was lobbying a number of individuals between the Bank of England, HMT, and others, and also a business minister, was my understanding. Did anyone get in touch from any of those departments, whether ministers or officials, with the British Business Bank about Greensill Capital, and was the buck passed on to you guys to help them, given the Treasury turned down requests?
What I would say is I think the NAO report will be quite helpful in this. We've discussed interactions between the Bays Department and ourselves in respect of potentially the Greensill accreditation. I think it's very important to say, from what I would say a RACI perspective, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. In terms of the design of the scheme, we were consulted heavily by Bays and Treasury, but in terms of the accreditation, we had to make those decisions independently. So we weren't asking for permission to credit individual lenders. Bays did inquire on a number of occasions about the progress of the Greensill application. We informed them that we were making that decision independently. What I would say is that we didn't give Greensill everything that they asked for. We didn't give the ability to do larger scheme facilities. We didn't give permission to do supply chain finance. And again, in those external letters and other requests, we had been asked to do that in the accreditation. So we did reach an independent decision, and the bank has been reviewing that question of influence. And we've concluded that we were not influenced by that. I think we reached our own balanced commercial decision versus the eligibility criteria in the scheme.
Would you be able to just share with us who in Bays inquired and how frequently those inquiries were made about progress with the Greensill application?
I think you'll find that the NAO report could be extremely helpful in that.
Yes. Why can't you just tell us? Other committees have had evidence where questions were answered. Why can't you just tell us what the Bees Department was asking you? It would be very helpful for this committee's inquiry, as the Treasury Committee's inquiry, to shed light. The public expect to have answers. You're a publicly funded bank. I don't understand why you can't answer that question.
Look, I can give you a description of it. You'll see more on it in the NAO report, and then we're very happy to. So in terms of...
My preference would be if you could tell us who in Bays and how frequently from Bays you were being asked for an update. Was it officials? Was it ministers? And if you can't answer that question, if you could check your records and write in to this committee and let us know, because that would help inform the answers and the reports that this committee and the Treasury Committee answer.
Sure, let me answer that and give you the high-level details and follow up. I believe that we had, I think it was 8 email inquiries about the Greensill application. I would say that was probably, I'd say we were providing updates on the general accreditation process and the accreditation of quite a few lenders in the different schemes. I think we counted up 8 requests for progress, but we were informing them against that progress. So we did have 8 inquiries from officials within the Bays Steel team. And again, further detail will be in the NAO report. So hopefully that gives you a sense of that, and I'm very happy to provide more of that.
Just as the Treasury provided answers to the Treasury Committee, and that was made public, would you be able to please provide the correspondence that was provided in terms of those inquiries and the dates in some sort of grid, because that would be helpful. Other committees have received it. I don't see why this committee shouldn't receive it.
Yes, I will take that away, and I'm sure we'll be able to come back with a helpful response.
Very helpful for my committee's inquiry, as well as this committee's, ahead of publication of those reports, so we have full line of sight on what happened and what the exchange was between the Bees Department and the British Business Bank.
Yes, we can provide the committee with further details on that, but hopefully I've given you a sense of that. I think there was also one question from a Bays minister in passing, and it was before the CL Bill scheme, but it was not an urge. It was sort of a question about would Greensill be eligible to apply.
Okay, thank you very much.